Welcome back, America. It's a great honor to have Ron Dermer, Minister for Strategic Affairs in the Israeli government, really the closest or one of the closest confidants the Prime Minister has. And full disclosure, a dear friend of mine and the family, as is his wife and their kids. Ron Dermer, let me just do it this way. What do you make of what happened last night?
Well, to say it's a historic decision would be an understatement. It might be one of the most important decisions that were made in the first half of this century, and the people of Israel and the people of the Middle East, and I think people around the world, are deeply grateful to President Trump for making this bold decision. I don't think it was a simple decision for him, but he was very clear from the beginning that he wasn't going to give Iran a nuclear weapon. And I think his leadership not only is going to bring security to the Middle East, I also think it will open the door to peace in the Middle East. Remember, in his first term, he did the Abraham Accords. He brokered that with Prime Minister Netanyahu, who, as you know, Mark, deserves a lot of credit for what he has done in leading Israel for decades, actually, but also since that October 7th horrific attack, how he has turned the tide on Israel's enemies. He said 2 days later that he was going to change everything in the Middle East. And through his leadership, we are at a point right now where we can actually see victory in front of us. And we see how after war, you can get to peace and pick up where we left off in President Trump's first term in those Abraham Accords where he brokered peace with 4 Arab states, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, with Sudan and Morocco. And I see a great possibility right now because Iran is the greatest threat to the security of the region. And by the actions that we took and by the actions that the president took yesterday, we have essentially defanged Iran. And I think this gives us hope for the future in the region. And I'm so grateful to President Trump for making that decision. I'm very grateful to his team, who I worked very closely with over the last few months, but in particularly in the last few days. And that's Vice President Vance, who was fantastic, Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. I was on the phone with him every day, sometimes multiple times a day. I don't think that the partnership between the United States and Israel, I know that the partnership between the United States and Israel has never been tighter. There's a lot of false press reports that probably helped us actually and create an element of surprise both for Israel and for the United States. But this partnership is stronger than ever. And we are just so grateful that we've been able to use this moment to, I think, create a pivot of history where Iran nuclear program is no more, its military nuclear program is no more, and we have worked to go after Iran's ballistic missiles, those 1-ton missiles that are being launched at Israeli cities. We have taken action against them, and I think in this wake of the war, we will open up a path to peace. And one final thing why I think it's so important for America. It's obviously important for Israel what happened because Iran is a regime that openly calls and actively works to destroy the state of Israel. And as you know the whole history, and you've said it on your show many times, how Iran sees the United States as the great Satan, as the main enemy. They're the ones that took over the American embassy in 1979. They're the ones that had their Hezbollah proxy kill those Marines in the barracks in 1983. They're the ones whose proxies bombed American embassies in Africa. They're the ones whose proxies murdered and maimed thousands of American service members in Iraq. So there's a long history of Iran's war with America, and now President Trump has brought an American, I won't even say war, an operation to Iran in a very, very forceful and dramatic way. But beyond taking action against Iran, I think this action that President Trump took in the wee hours of the morning, today actually, is going to affect American power around the world. I mean, if you're an adversary, an enemy of the United States, a friend of the United States, you see right now that the president actually backs his words up with action. And I hope it will mean that the United States would not have to employ so much military force in the years ahead. You saw that in the Reagan administration, where sometimes you had to demonstrate the use of American power so that people take you seriously. And believe me, everybody in the Middle East and everybody around the world takes President Trump very seriously today.
Ron Dermer, when we come back, there were a lot of leaks and false reports, as you say, during the lead up to this. trying to show a significant fissure between the prime minister and the president, between the two governments, between the two militaries. And I want to circle back and really hammer down on that because I see this quite differently, and I see the outcome as a result of that, which is two nations really never working this closely before together. So we'll pick up on that. We'll be right back.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.